Non-specific defense means this is just a barrier against any pathogens, okay? So it's not specific to each one of these like specific bacteria or viruses, but it's overall like general barrier towards any pathogens, okay? So out of non-specific defense, okay, we talk about first line of defense. Okay, so first line of defense, okay, and second line of defense, okay. So first line of defense actually is stated on page 263, okay. So first line of non-specific defense is a barrier that helps prevent pathogens from entering the body. So first one is skin, okay. So skin actually protects ourselves from actually being exposed to any kinds of pathogens in the air. Also mucous membranes, right? So all the digestive system as well as the respiratory system is covered with a liquid, like a fluid, that's called mucus, and that kind of membrane actually releases mucus to trap microbes. Cilia, we talked about this before, right? So on the surface of a respiratory system, we have a cilia. So when you have a dust or impurities coming in as you breathe in, okay, then cilia is going to actually sweep out that impurity out of our body through coughing or sneezing. Okay. Also stomach acid. So when we take in food into the digestive system, stomach acid is very acidic, right? It's pH 2 to 3, so that's going to kill most of the germs that went into our body with the food. Okay, so that's the first line of defense. Second line of defense in the non-specific defense is on page 264. Okay, so second line of defense can actually go through the first line of defense and still survive. Then we have a second barrier towards the pathogens, and yeah, that's on page 264. So microbes that get into the body encounter the second line of non-specific defense. It is meant to limit the spread of invaders in advance of specific immune responses. Okay, so there are three types. Number one is inflammatory response. Okay, so when you have like a pathogen, for example, like if you like stab yourself, okay, then a lot of like pathogens will come in, okay, through the surface of like a sharp materials, okay. Then with that, okay, what happens is like that part of the skin actually like gets swollen, okay, and becomes really red, okay. Also, you feel very sore, right? So that kind of response is actually called inflammatory response, okay? So the reason why it becomes very red or why it becomes very swollen is because of the release of a material that's called histamine. Okay, so histamine triggers vasodilation, enlargement of blood vessels, which increases blood supply to the area, okay? So since the blood actually flows towards that injured area, actually it becomes very red and hot, kind of swollen, that kind of response, okay? So let's look at a picture that applies to this response. All right, so this picture is on your handout. Okay, I think it's on the second page of your handout, so please refer to that. So this is explanation to the inflammatory response. Okay, so if you have like this splinter actually like going into your epithelial cells, skin cells, okay, then what happens is the pathogens actually comes in to the tissues like that, okay? Then in the tissues you have a cell resting in these tissues like normally, so that's called mast cell and macrophage, okay? So what happens is when the pathogen comes into these kind of skin tissues, then they excrete some kind of signaling molecules, okay? Then that signaling molecules are actually going to be like histamines, okay? So mast cell actually releases histamine, and in response to that, actually vasodilation occurs. So blood vessel actually enlarges and it becomes more like penetrating, it becomes more permeable, okay? So through these blood vessels actually, these kind of white blood cells comes into the tissues, okay? And they actually go through phagocytosis to actually eat up these kind of pathogens that enter the skin tissue. Okay, so they do phagocytosis of, they eat the pathogens that went into the skin tissue until everything dies in here. Okay, so this kind of stuff is called inflammatory response, and after that, like all the phagocytosis actually dies in the skin tissue, and you start to see like these inflammations, right, white stuff. Okay.